So we're going to do a collection video today. We haven't done one in a while and we've got a fair few new animals. We'll start off with our frill-neck lizard, which you've seen before. This one's our male. He's about 7 years old. Very placid. We take him to the shows and he does quite well. And this is his enclosure. We've got to pop a new light in. It just blew this morning. He likes to hang on the branch most of the time when he's in here. I'll pop a new light in today and get that fixed. Alright, on to our next one. So up here you've got our green tree python. He's just hanging about. We just gave him a bit of a squirt so he can drink, and doesn't really like drinking from a water dish, so he likes to have it squirted on him. These guys are kind of top of Australia, Cape York species, so they like a lot of moisture. Next we've got our blackhead python up here. Or she, I should say. It's always pretty hungry for a feed. Oh, there's the head just there. And there's a log. I'll leave her in today. And next we got our wine python. As you can see, she's kind of going into a bit of shed at the moment. Her eyes are clouding over and she's usually a lot more lighter. Next in our top area tour, we have our shinglebacks and blue tongues. So, this is our shingleback. We were told he was 2 years when we got him. We've had him for 2-3 years now, so yeah, he's probably about 5 or 6 years old. Loves fruit, and also feed him these beaded dragon pellets as well. Alright. So, next we've got our blue-tongued lizard, who's also shedding at the moment. So you can see he may have finished. Little bits of shed all over the enclosure. And this guy was about 6 months old when we got him, so he was about this big. And he's now 3 years, I think. That's quite well. Got a lot of life left in it. And this is the blue tongue setup here. You'll see the bits of shed all over, so we'll have to clean that out, but it's probably still got a little bit to go. We've got the UV light just up the top. So we've got the heat light over there on a thermostat, so that's just set to go off, and it's above the temperature now, so it's staying in. We've got eucalypt mulch at the bottom, which is easy to clean out, and they like to dig around and move around in that. Then we've got a food tray, a food dish with the beaded dragon pellets, and a water dish over here. A couple of hollow logs and some hides, and he's pretty comfortable in there. And then the next one, we've got the green tree frogs. So we're going to give those some crickets and see if you can catch them hunting. Not the biggest fan of crickets myself, so we'll see how this goes. Yeah. See with the green tree frogs, they'll grab the food, they'll dive on it if they need to, they'll use their hands to pull it into their mouth, and they'll use their eyeballs to they close their eyes and use their eyeballs to push the food down into their bellies. So we've got 3 in here. It's quite a simple setup. We just use this kind of peat moss brick from Bunnings and soak that so it ups the moisture level, and we've got the big pond in the middle, and then a bunch of branches. We've also got a light above the enclosure. It's just a 40-watt bulb, just to give it a bit of heat. Alright, we'll move on to the next one before these guys jump out. Alright. So next we've got some of our grow out Ridgies. These are ones we're keeping for future breeding. We do breed the Ridgies, they're great little lizards. And they're pretty ferocious little eaters. So this one at the back here, that one's about 3 years old, and these other 2 there from our last year's clutch, last year's last clutch, so they're just under a year old. And they cohabitate quite well. They're communal animals, so they'll live in colonies in the wild. We keep the heat quite solidly on these guys, so you want the heat probably about 55 degrees for the hatchies. And if you're breeding them, you want the heat between 50 to 70 degrees. The hotter the better. Just on the hot spot, the cool spot's about 30 degrees. So for us to achieve that, we've got 200 watt heat bulbs in here, and then we've got the UV light, because UV light's very important for Ridgies as well. We've just got Bunnings play sand on the ground. We haven't put it too thick, because if you put it too thick they'll burrow into it. But we do have these little shelving units which are really great underneath the light, because then they can go to different levels depending on what heat they want and what heat they don't want. Then we've got the water dish. These guys do, like all of our monitors and lizards, they like to bask in bathe in the water if they're needing to shed, and it helps them to make sure they shed all of their skin off their fingers and whatnot, so that they don't lose any fingers from stuck shed. Alright, leave these guys to eat, move on to the next. We'll go to the diamond next. He just had a feed yesterday, so we won't get him out, but you can see the enclosure. We usually leave them for about 3 days after a feed without touching them, just so they got time to digest the food very comfortably. And he's still pretty eager for another food, another bit, but he got quite a large rat yesterday. And then we've got our albino Darwin python up here. Similar setup. Both the heat lights are on thermostats. We've got a heat cord underneath half the bottom of each enclosure, so they can get that constant warmth if they want, and get the cool area up the top if they want that as well, because the heat lights will turn off. The diamond, we have a UV light. The albino not so much, just because it's not that good for their eyes, and they're a bit more susceptible to kind of skin cancer and whatnot. Alright, I think that pretty much does it for this part. We'll move on to the next.